Good evening, everyone. Could I have your attention, please? It's 6:30, and the June 8th, 2022 meeting of the City of Oldsmar Planning Board will come to order. Would everyone stand for the pledge, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You need to take your hat off next time you do the pledge, please.
Meeting agenda has been distributed in your board pack. Are there any amendments to the agenda?
We would like to move agenda item number 5 from the agenda to move forward to be after this
So we're replacing agenda item 5 or reversing agenda item 5 with agenda item 2. Thank you.
we're not reversing them.
We're switching the positions.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
So does that mean, just to clarify, does that mean you're going to go 1, 5, and then continue with 2, but not you're switching them out? Okay.
Oh, okay.
Okay, with that change, the meeting, are there any other amendments? And we will begin the open forum. So I don't note anyone present for open forum. Anyone who wishing to be a speaker on the agenda needs to be sworn in by the city clerk at this time.
Do you swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, so help you before God? Thank you.
I promoted you.
I'll take it for tonight.
The minutes draft has been distributed in your board pack. Are there, do we need to approve board minutes first? Next, we'll look to approve the board minutes. You received those in your pack as well. All in favor?
We need a motion first.
We need a motion.
Motion and a second.
We need a motion to approve the board minutes.
I wasn't here.
Oh, that's right, okay.
A motion to approve the minutes for dated March 9th, 2022.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The minutes will be filed as presented.
Susan, can I ask that we always make it a point to ask if there's anyone in opposition, because sometimes
Thank you.
we can't
Thank you.
tell,
Yeah.
just to be certain.
Just a point of order. Thank you very much. Anyone opposed to the approval of the minutes? Okay.
No.
So the amendments will be filed as presented. Item 1 on the agenda is, or item 2 on the agenda is CA 22-03, City of Oldsmar Code Amendment to require 3 open houses for development agreements for city-owned properties in the community redevelopment area.
Point of order. Chair, the staff has asked to move 5 to 2, 2 to 5. So I recommend we move agenda item 2 to agenda item position 5 and move agenda item position 5 to position 2. That's my recommendation.
Okay, so 1, 2, 1, 5, 3, 4, 2, 6?
They want 5 to 2 and 2 to 5.
Yes, they do.
I
Thank
make
you.
a motion that we
I
modify the agenda.
I had heard that they want 1, 5, 2, 3, 4. and then
One was the minutes.
5 is next. I
Yep.
messed up because I did the minutes and I didn't realize that was agenda item 1, so thank you for bearing with me here. So we are on-
Do we need to vote on the change of the agenda order?
I don't believe it's
I'm
necessary.
cash, I don't care, let's roll.
So we're doing agenda item 5. So back it up to the second item is the City of Oldsmar Code 2018 to 2021 concurrency reports, listed as 5 on your packet.
Good evening. Elena Delgado, City of Oldsmar Planning and Redevelopment. As stated, these are the concurrency test statements from 2018, 2019, 2020, and 2021. The intent and purpose of concurrency is to ensure that public facilities and services needed to support development are available concurrent with the impacts of such development, and to ensure that the development will not degrade the level of service. The following list includes public facilities and services for which a level of service standards have been adopted or best management practices have been established: transportation facilities, potable water, sanitary sewer, solid waste, parks and recreation, and drainage.
We
Yes.
are not seeing what you're showing over
Oh.
there, and I don't know if we'll be able to read it from.
Do we have to turn these on or something, Kathy?
I am not sure that they're working at this time.
Okay.
Because I
There's-
can't see that.
Yeah, they're scheduled for an
But it's
upgrade.
in the documentation?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
The annual submittal of a concurrency test statement by the Planning and Redevelopment Department to the city manager is required by section 11.2.2.2 of the Land Development Code. The statement, after review by the planning board, is conveyed to the city council for adoption by resolution. The statement provides the expected impacts of approved developments to the city's public facilities and services and the remaining capacities. If you can, I would say on your screens, you could see we had 8 developments approved over the last 4 years. Staff conducted the concurrency test statements for 2018, 2019, 2020, and 2021, and found that all water, sewer, waste, transportation, and land facilities are within an acceptable level of service as presented in the staff reports and summarized on the following slides. 2018, we had Primrose School, a 14,000 square foot preschool center in the ROR at Olympic Center Plaza, with proposed traffic impacts of 1,037 daily trips, water impacts of 2,060 gallons per day, and a wastewater impact of 2,060 gallons per day. In 2019, we had Oldsmar Town Center Lot 4, also known as the Shimspine Building, a 10,000 square foot physician office building in the TCCR in the community redevelopment area, with a proposed traffic impact of 128 daily trips, as well as 1,560 gallons per day of water use and 2,060 gallons per day of wastewater. In addition to 2019, we also had Express Oil permitted, a 4,539 square foot auto service center in the ROR at the crossings at Oldsmar, with proposed traffic impacts of 177 daily trips, a water impact of 500 gallons per day, and a wastewater impact of 500 gallons per day. Additionally, in 2019, Tidal Wave Car Spa was permitted, a 3,278 square foot car wash and ATM out parcel in the ROR at Tampa Road and Oakleaf Boulevard, with traffic impacts of 300 daily trips, wastewater impacts of 5,799 gallons per day, and wastewater impacts of 300 gallons per day. In 2020, we permitted the Burbank Warehouse, a 6,000 square foot manufacturing office in the M1 at Burbank Road and Douglas Road, with traffic impacts of 69 daily trips, potable water impacts of 900 gallons per day, and wastewater impacts of 900 gallons per day. Additionally, in 2020, we permitted the Cantor offices, 2 5,000 square foot mixed-use buildings in the TCCN in the community redevelopment area, with a traffic impact of 26 daily trips, potable water use of 4,500 gallons per day, and wastewater use of 4,500 gallons per day.
Excuse me?
Yes,
Is that projected?
that was projected given to us by the developers at the time of the application.
Thank you.
In 2020, we also permitted the Huff offices, a 4,700 square foot retail and office building in the ROR at the Douglas Road and at Gimgong Road, with traffic impacts of 16 daily trips, water impacts of 2,058 gallons per day, and wastewater impacts of 2,058 gallons per day. 2020, we also permitted Sanderson Medical Offices, a 3,200 square foot physician office building in the TCCN in the community redevelopment area, with projected traffic trips of 111, potable water demand of 590 gallons per day, and wastewater demand of 590 gallons per day. And finally, in 2021, we permitted the Brooker Creek Industrial Office, a 130,000 square foot industrial warehouse in the M1 at Brooker Creek Boulevard and Douglas Road, with traffic impacts of 905 daily trips, potable water impacts of 13,000 gallons per day, and wastewater impacts of 13,000 gallons per day. The city currently has 5,633 potable water connections with an average daily use of 1.37 million gallons per day. Currently, our capacity is at 69%. The city has an average daily use of wastewater of 1.45 million gallons per day and a capacity use of 65%. For transportation, most of our transportation facilities are functioning at a level of service C as defined by Ford Pinellas. There are currently 2 transit routes that Oldsmar is home to through PSTA. In addition, Tampa Road is considered a truck route by Ford Pinellas. For Parks and Recreation, we go by the National Recreation and Parks Association. We are currently meeting those standards as defined by that association. We recommend that the City Council adopt the 2018, 2019, 2020, and 2021 concurrency test statements in accordance with the Land Development Code, Article 11, Section 11.2.2.2, concurrency test statements and monitoring systems.
Does the board have any questions for staff?
I'm just gonna suggest something. In the future, if your presentation is different than our slide deck, would you be able to provide a copy?
Sure. Yeah.
Because in this case, it is very difficult to read, and it'd just be nice to be able to follow along.
Absolutely.
And also on those slides, if you can kind of just maybe tie in where, just maybe a page reference or something, just so we.
Absolutely.
Because if we can connect the dots in advance, it just makes this easier to be here and know.
I know nothing.
Yeah.
Reading this from what you were saying.
Right.
So, but I know that building hasn't even opened yet, so you're given projected usage, and their parking lot's not even paved, and there's weeds growing out of the ground. So on the one on St. Pete Drive, the hub office. That's why I asked you if it was projected or.
Right.
So,
Does the board have any questions for staff about the presentation?
Is it possible to help us tie these two together? Or at least if maybe someone could put this in front of you and you can just give us just a highlight?
Sure.
I apologize, I just think it.
No, I understand, because the page numbers we have in the slides, summaries, didn't quite match up.
Okay, so we can start from the beginning. Basically what we have is, we have 4 different concurrency test statements in your packet. So we have 2018, 2019, 2020, and 2021. Each one of them summarizes the approved development for that year. So anytime we approve a development, a developer is required to submit a concurrency test statement, demonstrating how the water, sewer, and traffic is going to impact the city in the future. And usually it's being a projection. So for instance, and it ties to the use. So for instance, residential development has certain uses, commercial has other. When an engineer is required to provide to us the concurrency test statement, and then based on that concurrency test statement, we provided on these slides that Elena presented. So each one of these developments, we're doing it obviously for 2018, and we already can see the build development. Most of the time, we would approve the case, and you wouldn't even see anything built unless the developer provided us graphics of the future development. So this is basically, right now, we're doing one for 2018, and you can see the Primrose is already there. You know that they're operating. The one for 2019, it's already built as well. The one for 2018. Out of all of these, the Sanderson Medical Office is the only one that hasn't been built, so that's why you see a graphic in here. These are projected impacts to the city facility system, yes. In the reports that you have, we kind of like go by the category. So we describe the transportation category. In the transportation category, we rely on the data that we obtain from Forward Pinellas. So Forward Pinellas has annual counts or biannual counts of their traffic, which then determines the level of service for the facility. So this slide pretty much summarizes the level of service for the roadway. The roadway systems, they operate from level of service A to level of service, how they define F. So A being there's a free flow, no cars pretty much, as you see on the picture. Level B is you have like a steady flow, still not that many cars. Level D, you have a steady flow with continuous kind of like cars saying. E, when it gets a little bit congested. C, that's when you still have, free flow. D, when you start seeing a little bit of a congestion. E, when you see congestion. And then F, it's like when your system fails, basically. So F fails. Most of the roadways are designed, the state highways are designed for level of service D in the state of Florida. I believe our comprehensive plan establishes the level of service of C for most of our facilities. So out of this chart that we obtained from Forward Pinellas, you can see that Forest Lakes Boulevard operates at a level of service of F. Primrose was approved, although they had access to Tampa Road and Forest Lakes, because there are upcoming improvement to Forest Lakes Boulevard by the Florida Department of Transportation. But in any case, your future development cannot degrade the level of service of your transportation facility to where it changes from D to F, basically. So, but we haven't really observed it. It was already operating at level of service of F, so if they added one more development, but they expect future upgrades to that facility, it was approved, basically, yes. All the other roadways, they operate at a level of service C, as demonstrated on this slide.
Which you also have on the first page of all the concurrency reports.
Right, so each concurrency report has the summary of the current level of service in the city. That's the data provided, obtained from Forward Pinellas. Okay, so then we can move to the next section. I think the report goes into details of annexation, so anytime we annex in the city, we also need to kind of like assess how that's going to affect, but obviously our annexations effort are not huge, so we've annexed one property or at a time, and Bayside Terrace, when they were annexed in, that was in prior concurrency statements, so these are not covered in this report. We also go into our water and sewer facilities, and you have developer again provides to us estimated gallons per day usage. That use of water comes from the fixture count that they submit to us at the time of development, and we just compare to see if we still have capacity. So if and when our sewer plant is below a certain level, then that's when we start talking about capital improvements and how we can expand that sewer facility. But today we're within the capacity. So that threshold, I believe, is 75 for the city, 75%. But we operate with the sewer at 69. Let me double check. And with the average daily use of wastewater is 65, and the city water connection is at 69. We also describe the transit routes as part of our transportation. So we do have, although we don't have currently established level of service for transit routes, we do have two buses that operate, Route 812 and 67. And we also mentioned the truck routes. The parks and recreation, the most important chart here, if you look at this, it's your surplus and deficiencies. Each report has a table. If I point out, I don't think I can point out with this.
maybe Elena can show where this table, because that's pretty much the most important in parks and recreations.
Is that table 7, Tatiana?
Yes,
Thank you. And 6,
yes, 6 and 7.
page 6 and 7.
And from that table, it's table 7, so it's leisure services, total facility counts. You can see that anything that's in the parentheses in there, that's our deficiencies. The only one that we're deficient one is the handball racket courts. Everything else, we're pretty much in the surplus, or we meet that level of service. So for parks, the suggested level of service is 11. We have 11 parks. Tennis courts, suggested level of service is 3. We have 4 in the records. And it goes on, the list goes on for each facility. We even exceed with some of them. So for instance, with picnic sites, we exceed by far. Yes.
Tatiana, the tennis course says existing 7, suggested 3, and surplus is 1. So either existing is wrong or the surplus is wrong.
Which report is that?
Page 7.
Of which year?
Oh, I don't know. I just said page 7, table
Total
7.
facility count.
We'll make that correction when we present to the council. We can document that page.
Okay, so you're saying that each year is different? Is that what you're saying?
If you look, may I embellish, behind this first page, at the top it says 2018. If you go next to page 11, follow it all the way back, the next page starts with 1, it says 2019. If you follow that to page 12, then it'll start a new page 1 that says 2020. And if you follow that to 12, on page 1 again, it'll be 2021.
Okay, so page 7 of 2019 shows 7 tennis courts, 3 suggested, 1 surplus.
I believe the member was just pointing out a typo in the
Right.
map.
But he said he did it each year.
Just
We'll double check those. Thank you. And hopefully next year it will be much easier when you have just one report to review instead of all 4.
thank you.
Does anyone else on the board have a question for staff?
Does it take into account anything regarding the reclaimed water?
Yes, that is under the water section in each report. I don't have a slide on that, unfortunately, I didn't put that in. But that is under the wastewater, there is a section on reclaimed water.
Okay, so it does account for it?
It
with
does
all
account
the
for
new
it,
ones?
yes.
Okay, okay. Thank you.
Mr. Harvey, you have any questions for staff?
No, no questions.
Ms. Giannikos?
No
Questions?
questions.
Okay. Does the applicant, you're the applicant, right? Okay. We don't have anyone here to speak for or against. No written comments were received on this, I assume. Nobody wrote anything. If there are no others wishing to speak in favor of or opposition, then is there a motion on item 5 on the agenda to,
I recommend that City Council adopt 2018-2022 concurrency reports as written, presented.
Second.
all in favor?
Can I ask a question?
Oh, I'm sorry,
Before we do
discussion, I apologize. So it is moved and seconded, is there discussion on the matter?
Yeah, if you don't mind, I just, once adopted, like how would this be used? If you don't mind me asking.
So because part of these is in the past tense, it hasn't been totally up to the current day. Most of it is records keeping. As for 2021, the data that we use, we essentially take into account in terms of how any future developments we permit will impact based on the level of service that we currently looked at. The currency for 2021 is used to just make decisions based on the impacts of future site plans.
Okay, so it's used for comparative analysis, is that?
It's not for comparative analysis, it's just to make sure that we're not degrading the level of service, established level of service in the city with these developments. So this is just a proof from us demonstrating that everything that came through planning department was checked against the codes. They submitted the concurrency test statement, and we're still meeting the current level of service for water, sewer, transportation, even though this development occurred. So this is just a demonstration, and each site provides the specific traffic, water, and sewer impacts. It's a requirement by code, so it's an annual requirement that we have to transmit this report to the city manager and then adopt by resolution, demonstrating that any development that occurred, again, did not degrade the level of services, and we still have capacity in the future for future development.
So under normal circumstances, we would have been reviewing this every year and,
Correct.
okay.
And we did it last year, John,
We did it last year for what years?
up until this one, to
So
20.
we're redoing 2018, 19, 20? Is that?
Unfortunately, since 2018, none of the concurrency test statements have been submitted to the planning board or the council, so we're doing with one resolution. We're doing 4 different test statements. And presenting it in
I stand corrected, because I remember doing one of these months.
2018 was actually, 2017 was the last year, and then 2018 when the board reviewed the last report for 2017, yes.
Missed last year. I wasn't here. I had the vid.
Most of us lost last year and the year before, and
Brain fog.
pandemic and everything, yes, that was happening, so. The good thing, you can see that it's actually been built already, so only one site out of all of the developments that happen is not built, so I guess it's a good thing.
So just to clarify, the test is run yearly by the city, not
Correct.
run for each proposed project in the
Both.
city.
It's both. So each proposed project, they supposed to submit a concurrency test statement as part of their development. And then at the end of the year, so for the fiscal year, we're supposed to evaluate to see what was approved in that year and present it to the city manager by Florida statute. Yeah.
Okay, because in the report, is it okay for me to speak now? Like I'm not, okay. So in the report, I guess what I was looking for, since we were looking at properties from 2018-19, I kind of expected to see a column that showed what it was when it was built versus what it is now, so that you could actually see the impact. But that's not the purpose of this actual report. It's just
It is not, because as
Backtracking
you've
to
seen, some of the
2000.
developments,
pretend
so-
we don't know it existed. And
for instance, it's just at the time of the approval again, each developer is supposed to submit the concurrency test statement. Sometimes at the end, we approve the development, but it never happens, so it expires, the permit expires, or actually the site expires. So, and it may never happen, so.
anybody else have any questions? Okay.
Curiosity question, is there ever a effort to validate whether the proposed statements at the time of development application and actuals like coincide? So for example, if the car wash ends up using 10 times the amount of water they originally had stated they would use, would there be a way to catch that? Would that?
I believe you answered that just a moment ago, that it's two different, correct?
Yeah, I'm just,
No, I think what,
I'm just
John
asking,
Andrews,
is there any?
asking, we've never recently done anything like this, but most of the time, so sometimes development undergoes like minor amendments, and they undergo a change in expansion of the use. For instance, it was approved for a certain use, but then it was expanded. I'm not sure if Public Works, if they run to see what was approved in the application compared to what it is, but it's basically an estimate at the time of the development proposal, it's an estimate. So any of their numbers should match because the engineer put his seal on it and they based them on fixture counts. So it's how many gallons per water your toilet, goes down the sink, or it's estimate because sometimes you may take, I don't know, 3 showers a day and other times you won't take that shower a day. So your daily use is kind of like, it's not an exact science if you.
And I think that, and I just wanted to add, just because I felt like this may help, is that annually, especially for, we look at the level of service of all of those things, right? So as one of the slides said, we're only at 69% operating for our potable water. So then those numbers, the actual, I want to call it the actual impacts versus the estimated impacts, are captured annually in how we know exactly how much water is going through our system. So whether or not that is a singular development, we estimate the whole comprehensive system. So we're comparing new developments to really, to me, I look at it kind of in layman's term, this is the way that the city ensures that the proper facilities are there to support any given development. So while we don't go back to see exactly what tidal wave is consuming in their water, we do know that whatever they're consuming hasn't made a significant impact to the overall health of our system. So that's kind of, it may be one way to sort of view it through that lens. I don't know if that was helpful, but I just felt like I compelled to share how I view that through a lens. Thank you. Sorry.
Cars a day.
Thank you.
Yeah. What I think you're talking more about policing and enforcing. And
Well,
that's on the other end of what we're doing.
I know that that's not what this is all about, because this is just adopting what's on here. I was just curious, what kind of checks and balances are in place, because, I can estimate 300 cars, and it could end up being a lot different, based on the success of the location. So I was just curious, and Mrs. Donnelly, thank you for your
So
clarification.
point of order at this point then, because we had moved to discussion, and I just wanted to make sure no one else had any, has everyone asked their questions of staff? Because I know they came back up. Does anyone else have questions for staff? Thank you very much. I was curious if Mr. Stradling Duncan had any discussion on the matter?
I do not.
Nothing today? All right. It was,
I got a good idea.
we were glad to hear that they are going to give us 1 year at a time in the future.
Yes.
So.
Yes.
All right, so then we need a roll call vote on this item.
Yes, we have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, Board Member Cabanas to approve the concurrency test statements.
Approved.
Okay. Board Member Harvey,
Aye.
Board Member Rimbuer,
Aye.
Board Member Roundhouse,
Aye.
Board Member Janakis, Chair Oliver. Approval of 2018 to 2021 concurrency test statement reports are approved with 6 votes for and 0 against.
Thank you. Agenda item 3 on the, am I right here? I am. 2. So we're going to 2. Okay, agenda item 2, CA 22-03, City of Oldsmar Code Amendment to require 3 open houses for development agreements for city-owned properties in the community redevelopment area. Information. And
Thank you. As noted, this is Code Amendment KCA 2203, Development Agreements. Since the early 1990s, the city has been purchasing infill properties around the CRA area to facilitate downtown development. To ensure sustainable and well-planned developments and to facilitate public communication, City Council is requesting an amendment to the LDC Article 14 Supplemental Regulations, Section 14.7.5, to require 3 public open houses prior to the adoption of a proposed development agreement. At the January 4th, 2022 City Council meeting, there was general consensus regarding the need for public open houses for development in the town center. The City Council approved the additional steps on February 1st, 2022. The amendment will increase the transparency in the development process and increase the ability of the public to participate in the decision-making process. In addition, the code amendment will require additional community outreach beyond the first and second City Council hearings and enhances the welfare of the community by facilitating public information and feedback. And the proposed code amendment will be applicable to city-owned properties in the CRA that are proposed for redevelopment. Other development agreement standards will not be impacted. Staff recommends that City Council authorize the city attorney to prepare an ordinance for amendments to require 3 open houses before entering into a development agreement for city-owned properties in the community redevelopment area.
Thank you for the presentation. Does the board have any questions for staff? Thank you. Would anyone, let's see here, sorry. Is there a
Yes, I have a
motion?
question.
Oh, you do have that.
How's scheduling going to take place with the 3 open houses? Who determines the scheduling? City staff?
I do believe that's city staff, yes.
And locations, same thing?
3 different locations, hopefully.
Kind of did this once already, didn't we?
Yes, yes.
And did it work out the way you thought?
Yes, fairly well. So we actually have a presentation on item number 4. I believe that is a development agreement that can go into some further detail on how the process would theoretically work.
And will the results be posted like they did the last time?
I do believe so.
Oh yeah, I think there was some kind of newsletter that you had 82%, everybody loved it, something like that. Well, I might have the number wrong. I have no further questions for staff, thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you. Is there a motion on agenda item 2?
I make a motion to recommend approval of CA 22-03, City Council.
I second that motion by Mr. Harvey.
It is moved and seconded to adopt CA, or to discuss CA 22-03 City of Oldsmar Code Amendment to require 3 open houses for development agreements for city-owned property. Is there any discussion on the matter? Roll call. The
Board
clerk
member-
will call each member for their vote.
Board Member Cambanis,
Aye.
Board Member Harvey,
Aye.
Board Member Rimbuer,
Aye.
Board Member Roundhouse,
Aye.
Marcus, Chair Oliver.
Aye.
A motion to recommend that City Council authorize the city attorney to prepare an ordinance to amend section 14.7.5 of the Land Development Code is approved with 6 votes for and 0 against.
Item 3 on the agenda is a recommendation that the City Council authorize the city attorney to prepare an ordinance to amend section 14.7.5 of the City Land Development Code.
Is that, we,
We're doing 3 now, right, on the agenda?
That's the one that just been voted on.
201.
I thought we moved 2 up, and then we moved everybody else down, so then we would be
well, 3 would be next.
on 3. Okay. Oh, so I apologize, I read the wrong, that's my bad, thank you. It's rough, guys. So item 3 on the agenda is DA 22-01, Devon S. Rushnell LLC Development Agreement. You have a presentation on that for us?
Yes, we do have a presentation.
The right one.
Thank you.
And it's gonna be on that TV back there? Bummer.
Let's see, yes.
I'm gonna fire our IT guy. We can't get these monitors working. Can't see that.
It's scheduled to be upgraded this month, so hopefully
Well,
that'll take care of
and
it.
can we table this till then? Sorry, I digress.
Perhaps just as was requested earlier, if you have the packet and you can kind of correlate the slide to where we should be looking in our packet, that would be helpful.
Sure. So this is DA 2201, Development Agreement for Odeon side. Tatiana Childress, City of Oldsmar Planning and Redevelopment Director. Just to go over what you have in front of you. So the first 10 pages, you will have the staff report. In Appendix A, then you have the actual development agreement with all of the important essential terms. And then it goes into the site plans. So the site plans, they go from approximately page 44 and some graphics. What I'm going to be presenting is mostly on the staff report, so the background on the site, so the city owns approximately 6.96 acre property adjacent to the city library between St. Petersburg Drive, State Street, and East Arlington Avenue. The city purchased the properties with the intent of redevelopment. Devin Rushnell is interested in acquiring 6.22 acres of this parcel and proposes to develop the site with a mixed-use development containing 82 residential townhomes, 18 of which will have a live-work component. The city will retain the remaining 0.74 acre parcel adjacent to the library site for future public space development that will be developed by the city. The property is located within the CRA and requires a development agreement. The city's Land Development Code, section 14.7, outlines the process for the execution of development agreement. So on October 6, 2020, the City Council authorized the city manager to enter into the negotiations with Devin Rushnell for the purpose of entering into development agreement. On February 11th, sorry, I'm having trouble with the notes here. So on February 11th, 2021, John Buse presented a proposed conceptual plan that you've seen in this packet. On April 6, 2021, the City Council approved the revised conceptual plan. On May 5th, 2021, the city invited other proposals for the site with a legal advertisement as per Florida Statutes 163, 330, 380. The city did receive inquiries from Framework Group and 1118 Architecture, but no proposals were received. On February 1st, 2022, the City Council approved another version of the conceptual plan presented in the enlargement of the theater site or the future site for redevelopment by the city and reduction of the 82 units. Also, the orientation of the units to promote walkability and the new urbanism concept. On March 1st, 2022, the City Council also directed the city manager to host 3 public open houses that we've discussed earlier. So all of the 3 open houses were successful, and on April 5th, 2022, the City Council directed the City Attorney to reduce the development agreement terms to contractual form for further consideration. The current zone, the site meets current zoning. It is located in our TCCN, Town Center Commercial Residential District. In your packet, you have a table which summarizes the site data table. So we basically run any development that we receive, we run it by code to see what the established density and how this development meets the density, so how many units of residential could go on site. We also check for setbacks, things like floor area ratio. All of that information is located within the zoning section of our Town Center Commercial Neighborhood District. So we just strictly go to the code and run it by code. That's what we call. It also meets the land use. So land use is something that's being controlled by our comprehensive plan and also by forward panels by county. So it meets the current land use with underlying land use allows, which is the community redevelopment district, allows up to 30 units per acre, but our zoning TCCN allows 15. Just demonstrates the map of land use. So again, for the city, it's the CRD, and for county, it's activity center. It also, a small portion of the site, the land use is actually the residential urban, or a residential low medium on the county side. It meets the comprehensive plan as described in the staff report. And I will pause on this slide. So these are the essential terms. So this is something that you find in the development agreement. And I'll just read some of these. So the essential terms of this development agreement will include a performance bond in the amount of the cost of the improvements, payment of all applicable impact fees, construction, landscaping, and maintenance of public space, including within the city's right-of-way along St. Petersburg Drive and State Street. Public space will include public art, provision of access and maintenance easements as required for public utilities, relocation of the city's water main to the west side of St. Petersburg Drive, performance of all site due diligence, including but not limited to any additional surveys and environmental assessment, replat of the existing parcels of land, all site work, including but not limited to the demolition of or relocation of the existing structures. There will be a buy-in to the city's stormwater system, connect the project to the city's reclaimed water system, submission of a final site plan, including the signage and landscape plan through the city's formal review process. The developer will be required to obtain all required permits, demonstration of concurrency, and submission of a concurrency test statement as required by the city's land development code. So here we are again with the concurrency test statement. So the developer, the engineering firm will have to provide to us their daily water demand and also the projected trip generation, the traffic study. It will include demonstration of compliance to the town center code, including but not limited to the architectural design and pattern book. So this is the only TC town center area, or our CRA area is the only district in the city, with the exception of temporary corridor overlay, where we have established architectural standards. So any development within the CRA, they have to present to us the architectural renderings of what the future development would look like. So here we have the renderings that depict Florida vernacular architecture. And again, architecture is required to conform to the standards in our architectural and design pattern book. The buildings, they feature 3 stories, front porches, fixed glass storefronts, and arm posts, and some other architectural features that meet the Florida vernacular architecture as demonstrated on some of these slides. The proposed development would also include a couple of variances. So the developer is asking for driveway flares as shown in the conceptual plan, then setbacks to driveways shown on the plan, and then buildings 5, 6, and 7 with tandem garages with 8.67 wide driveways as shown on the conceptual plan. It's also demonstrated here on the graphic. And the steps in the right-of-way to meet the existing sidewalk on buildings 1, 2, and 3. So staff recommends that City Council approve a development agreement with Devon Rushnell for a mixed-use development with 82 townhomes, including 18 live-work units, according to Section 14.7 of the Land Development Code.
Does the board have any questions for staff?
Okay, to clarify, this is the proposal for the downtown theater district?
It is known as Odeon Site Theater District. It's a site next to library, so the answer would be yes.
Okay, thank you.
Isn't it kind of a misnomer, theater district? It's a tiny little building. I mean, it's a black box theater, and they're gonna call that a theater district? Is that, we're just a catchphrase that we're using? I've never,
Sure.
You got one little building, where's the district?
Point of order, does the board have any questions for staff on the item on the agenda at this time?
I thought that was. Okay.
No questions? Does the applicant wish to make a presentation to the board?
Good evening, board members. My name's Devin Rushnell. I'm at 2864 Kingswood Circle in Brooksville, Florida. I'm available for questions. You got a pretty good sized staff report and everything, 102 pages I see. We spent a fair amount of time putting it together, working with staff and working with Tom Trask and everybody else. So I'm available for questions, really. I think they did a fine job presenting it. So.
Thank you.
I have a question. Can you give me an idea of what the,
Is this for the applicant?
of the
Question for
applicant?
the
I'm
applicant.
sorry, of the
Oh,
applicant.
Thank you, I apologize.
Can you give me some idea as to what the asking price is going to be of these 82 units?
I would suspect they're going to probably be in the high 400s, low 500s per unit is what I'm thinking. Somewhere in there.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, and that's an estimating in today's market. You know, the world keeps changing, as we all know. Yeah.
Maybe pause just a minute in case anybody else has a question. Do you have one?
I have a question. This, these little commercial openings downstairs on St. Pete Drive, I think you have them on State Street too, I'm not sure, because I don't,
I believe it's only on St. Pete Drive. Yeah, there's
it's
18
called
units.
Building Type 3.
Right.
Now, I don't know if Building Type 2 has them, but Building Type 3 has little commercial spaces downstairs,
Correct.
right? Now, I think somewhere in one of these drawings, it has a dimension. And I'm kind of looking for Building Type 3's drawing,
I believe that space was around 360 square feet.
which is 10 by 10.
Yeah, it's fairly small. Yeah.
And what do you, I mean, I guess I'm asking you to speculate. What kind of business would operate in a 10 by 10 space?
An attorney could have a small office, you know, that type of thing. We've been asked by staff and to bring in the live-work element for that use, and so we added that particular use. It's not a requirement that it gets rented out, and it may be somewhat of a bonus room for somebody if they want to use it for their own home office is one option. But it's set up that way that it can be used for commercial activity.
But we may never see a single commercial opening there in I mean, you can't put a pizza parlor in a 10 by 10.
It was not designed for
And we're
that.
thinking walkability here, people would then, it's the idea, the concept was, density creates walkability. Walkability creates the paradigm of places to go.
Sure.
And what kind of ice cream shop can you put in a 10 by 10?
Well, 10 by 10 is 100 square feet. We're saying 364 square feet.
You can't put a
That's triple
pizza.
that, right?
So it'd be mostly professional, you think?
Correct. That's what I would think mostly, but I don't know. It'd be up to the buyer on how they would choose to utilize the space.
Yeah.
Right.
Not a whole lot of walkability there. All right, thank you. That's my only question.
Yeah, I had a question. So I see the units with the live work carve out, which basically takes a portion of the ground level space, right?
Correct.
And
And actually, the building is built staged, so the live workspace will be up on grade, just above St. Pete Drive. As you come out of the live workspace, you walk downstairs into the garage area, so it's staged. It's the way the building's designed. And that's why it's a different building element, to take that into consideration.
okay, and may I ask, where would the optional bedroom 4 go?
I don't know offhand.
Is that, because
Is that in front of me?
it's hard, it's hard to tell from this if it's supposed to be an option. I'm looking at 3.0, I think.
Which page?
3.0, 3.1, just curious how that option 4 would fit in, or where does it fit in?
Which page are you on?
3.0 and 3.1.
Okay.
Yeah, so if you look at the main floor on 3.0, to the very top, it says flex, option bedroom 4. You look to the right, and it says option bedroom 4 in lieu of flex space.
Okay. So the flex space would be the live work, is that the?
No, that's an optional bedroom for the actual unit itself. The live work is on the right side where it says ground floor, out
Okay,
front.
so I'm sorry, I just wasn't following which floor. So it would be in replacement of, like, because when I read bedroom 4, then I would assume bedroom 1, 2, and 3 would be there.
One, two,
So it would be on the main floor.
right, main floor at the very back, you'll see, it says
Okay.
options there. And sir, to answer your question, it's 13.8 by 23.8 is the size of that space for the live work.
Well, the end unit's bigger. I mean, I see that 488 square feet on the ground floor end cap, but the ones in the farther down or in the middle are smaller.
They're 364 square feet, as
Yeah,
I mentioned, and it's 13.8 by 23.8, not 10 by 10, just to make sure you,
Right.
the space.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions of the applicant? I had a couple, I actually.
Sure.
So there was where is that? I'd made a note here. Oh, on paragraph 4, on page 8 of the main, it says something about, it's all about, give me a second, about lighting. And then there was a statement, maybe this is better for staff, I missed it earlier. There's a statement about general nuisance that really isn't specific to lighting. It was just a very general statement actually on page 10, number 27, I think it was. Let me see the page. I apologize, I wrote it down, but no, it's page 8, number 24.
Yes, that's a general statement that we include in all of our development agreements.
Oh, okay.
And it has to do with that the lighting can't be in such a way that it would affect the neighbor's enjoyment of their property.
Okay, I
So-
understood the lighting part, but then it had a separate sentence that just said you can't be have any general nuisance but I didn't know if that pertained to lighting and that was for staff, sorry.
Yep, what page are you on, and Susan, maybe I can,
I have it written down, but, I mean, it's not that important, so we don't have to belabor it, but you've answered the question.
All right.
Thank you. The other question I had was about, it was on page 11 of the agreement, and it talks about, it goes back to credits from previous developer, so it was the fee schedule and the impact fees and totals on the city impact fees, so that's for staff too, so I guess I backtracked. And where it says credits from previous developer, I just had a question based on all the other information we've gotten tonight, where those credits come from.
right, so the credits for any development, so when a development pays an impact fee, right? So we assess impact fees at the time of building permit. So those are paid for that impact. So in our code, it allows for a credit to be given to another development on the same site because it's infill development, right? So the previous development has already paid some level of fees. So then a newer development would get a credit to those fees based on the previous use. So it's only a partial credit based on what the use is and what the square foot. So for instance, there were several, it's infill development, there were several properties on there. One of them was Mickey's Peanuts. Well, do you guys familiar with that place? Daryl probably is. But for instance, so they paid a level of impact fees. So once that building goes away, a new infill development would get credit for what they've already paid into the system.
Okay, so it's not based on anything being built there and the person that was the previous development owner
Correct.
wouldn't ask for a refund
No,
of any impact fees? Okay.
correct.
Thank you. That was it. All right, so we've had a motion and
Open the public hearing.
discussion. So is there anyone here that would like to speak for the agenda item?
Excuse me, I have another question. Two questions for the
Questions are fine.
developer. Sir, are you considering at all culverting the ditch?
Yes, we talked to Water Management about that. On May 19th, we had a pre-application with them. They had some criteria we'll have to meet because there's a certain amount of runoff that's in that ditch, and I believe that ditch has an overflow area
Right.
into the DOT pond.
Yes?
So Water Management said we could pipe it, but we have to have a bubble-up structure to be able to make sure that still can function, so it's an engineering design consideration.
Will you culvert it all the way to Arlington through School Street?
We hadn't looked at it from a design perspective that deep. We've done preliminary site plans and a preliminary meeting with Water Management just to go through it.
Okay, and I see you're not touching School Street, which is a good thing.
Right.
You're moving the dumpster, relocating the dumpster that's on the property to the west. It's vacant, no trees, right at the library edge parking lot.
Right.
Your building type 2s butt up against the library parking lot.
Right.
It appears there's a wall, but I'm not sure. In some of the pictures.
Around that dumpster, there, I don't know if there's a wall
Well,
or
there's a concrete
fence.
wall around the dumpster, but
Right.
I know that would go away because you got to relocate dumpster.
Right.
Are you going to put a wall up or some type of fencing or blockage from the library parking lot to the property?
We had not planned to, no.
So you can walk from the library parking lot right into these people's driveways and backyards?
Right, and that's highly unlikely, but yes, that could occur. But the reverse holds true too. The residents can walk directly to the library without having to go out and around.
Well, they'd have to walk through the theater.
It's cross connection.
But, yeah, and so anybody from this development then can, like pedestrians, can surge through the library parking lot onto Dartmouth and walk around the neighborhood. And there would be no way, no impedance to that movement of humanity.
Correct, so walkability, correct.
Well, just people walking their dogs on the street. But, okay, that's the only question I had. Thank
All
you.
right, thank you.
Other questions?
Great. So would anybody like to speak in favor of the item under discussion? Anyone opposed who would like to speak in opposition to the item in discussion? Were any written comments received?
No.
If there are no others wishing to speak in favor or opposition to item number 3, the public hearing will now close. And it is moved and seconded. The clerk will call on each member for their vote, or do we need to do a discussion again? Do we need to do a discussion? So,
Had a motion. and
We haven't
second
had a
yet.
motion on this yet, have we?
Not yet.
I lost it again. I'm just
See how
glad, I'm
efficient-
glad
see how
everyone else is
efficient our
having
chairwoman is.
difficulty too, and not just me. Is there a motion on agenda item 3?
You're calling for a motion?
I am calling for one. Is that how I say it? Calling for.
You
a motion.
can.
I'm calling for a motion.
You're doing great.
Thank
I mean, it's your first
I'm
meeting,
trying.
right?
The chair
You're
would like
rocking.
to call for a motion on item number 3. Now you're giving me confidence.
That's all right, I did that job for years and I got more than.
Thank you for your understanding.
Madam Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we recommend approval of DA 22-01 to City Council.
Have a second?
Second.
It is moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on the matter?
Is this gonna come back before us? This development, this is just the development agreement. I mean, we're gonna see plats, we're gonna see stuff, right? Tatiana, please?
Yes, there will be so many different meetings on this, yes.
I mean, we might be moving the swimming pool, you know, we don't know. Yeah. Okay.
It's a conceptual site plan at this point, so,
They say they have parking for pool in there, yeah, it says so.
At least I don't live next to the pool. That's all I had, thank you. I don't have any other discussion items.
Any other board members? I would like to comment that I was very pleased to see the parking allocated, because that's always a concern, so I appreciate that. The clerk will call on each member for their vote and a roll call vote.
Yes, roll call vote. Board Member Cabanas?
Aye.
Board Member Harvey?
Aye.
Board Member Rambuer?
Aye.
Board Member Roundhouse?
Aye.
Board Member Tanakis?
Aye.
Chair Oliver?
Aye.
The motion to recommend the City Council approve a development agreement with Devin S. Rushnell LLC for a mixed-use development with 82 townhomes, including 18 live-work units, is approved with 6 votes for and 0 against.
Item number 4 on the agenda is evaluation and appraisal report.
Thank you.
Thank you.
yes, so we do not have a PowerPoint presentation for this, but it's just a one-page memo from staff. And then we have the appraisal and evaluation report that was presented by Calvin Giordano and Associates. So as stated in Chapter 163, Part 2, Florida Statutes, all municipalities in Florida must maintain long-range comprehensive planning program. And the purpose of comprehensive planning is to monitor and evaluate community characteristics related to development, provisions of services, environmental protection, and other governmental activities. In accordance with Chapter 163, Florida Statutes, municipalities are required to evaluate the comprehensive plan every 7 years for compliance with changes in state regulations and requirements. The reporting requirements for the evaluation and appraisal report transmittal significantly changed since 2011, simplifying this process. So each municipality is required to transmit to the Department of Economic Opportunity a letter stating that they either in compliance with the regulations or they're anticipating any changes. So basically we have done some research and we're notifying the state that we are going to be revising our comprehensive plan in the next year, and by August 2023 we will be transmitting to the state the updated comprehensive plan, which means that this letter will notify the state that we're making those changes to the comp plan. So this is just kind of like a formality for us to say that we're working on our comprehensive plan in the next year. With that being said, so we've already worked on securing a consultant to help us with the comprehensive plan update. It's been approved by council, and we've already scored the highest ranking firm, which is Calvin Giordano and Associates, to do the comp plan amendment for us. And public meetings will be coming up in the next couple of months for the public participation and also stakeholders' involvement to discuss all of the elements that are currently in the comp plan. So the last update of the comprehensive plan, including all of the elements, was done sometimes in 2008. Since that time, we've had multiple amendments to different elements. For instance, the land use element was amended several times. In addition, we've added the new element, which is required by Florida statute now, which is the property rights element that was added in 2021. Staff recommends that the City Council approve the transmittal of the evaluation and appraisal report of the City Comprehensive Plan to Florida Department of Economic Opportunity, notifying the state of the city's intent to amend the comprehensive plan by August 2023 for consistency with new statutory requirements and other community needs. If you have any questions, we do have a consultant here, and I can also answer any questions. Thank you.
Does the consultant wish to add anything?
I'll just introduce myself, Luis Cerna with Calvin Giordano and Associates, 13535 Feathersound Drive in Clearwater. I'm just available to answer any questions you may have on this. So.
Does the board have any questions for staff? I have just one. You don't even have to stand up. I just have one. Do you foresee any opposition to changing this? Because basically this is just approving to send a letter saying you're going to work on this over the next year to present some amendments, right?
Correct.
So why the public meetings? What opposition do you think that you need to kind of get ahead of? I'm just curious.
So a lot of the items are just in the code, and we need to bring it in front of the board in order to move to the next step. And it's also a good public engagement process, so we're notifying you that we're doing this, so we're keeping informed the public. So it's for public engagement. It's not necessarily always for opposition, but it's kind of like notifying the board members and also notifying the public that we're doing this, and we'll be conducting multiple public meetings in the future to update.
No, I think it's great. I just, once you get into it, maybe some certain points, but I was just wondering, like, to have public meetings about doing the actual thing. But yeah, thank you. I think it's great you guys are doing the meeting.
I'd kind of like Tatiana, how do private property rights are considered in local decision-making? I mean, what kind of consideration? I mean, eminent domain has happened in this town before. I mean, and that's part of property rights, isn't it?
I do not have the property rights element in front of me, so we'll be reviewing it in greater detail when we transmit it to the state, which is basically, so it was a new statutory requirement, and state actually provided kind of like a guidance what needs to be included into that element. We didn't go outside of what was minimum required for that element, and we just included the language, the same one that was suggested to us. With this new update, if we wanted to expand on it, we definitely could explore like what could be added, and at that time we'll take the comments. So I will take a comment and get back with you on that. A note, and we'll get back with you on that.
Yeah, I read that the state had done that, and I was like, well, how does that really apply?
So they're different, right? Different applications, and different municipalities. They kind of like tweak a little bit. And I'm pretty sure the consultant will help us to maybe find the right language for Oldsmar, how we can amend it so that it's not like a stamp that came from, the stamp language, kind of like a template language, but it will be more tailored towards needs of Oldsmar, but at the same time meet the statutory requirements. So it's kind of like a balance.
And our coastal high hazard area stops where?
The coastal high hazard area actually changed. The map was issued in September. It increased in area, and if you picture Oldsmar, so anything south of Tampa Road is pretty much CHHA, and anything to Burbank, kind of like well past even Burbank. So I don't have it in front of me, but I can bring it. It will be a good public meeting board, post board, to demonstrate what the limits of coastal high hazard areas. So we'll bring those during the public workshop.
So you know what I'm gonna say next, right? Because I'm all Dale here. Discourage population concentrations in coastal high hazard areas. And we just approved 82 homes in a coastal high hazard area.
So that was already permitted by density. So the density that was already in place. So any amendments to that established density, something is subject to the regulations that we've discussed on the prior meetings, where you start talking about mitigation. So they're not completely, they're trying to kind of like move the population density from the coastal areas, but at the same time, as we keep growing, they're also talking about like, it's not the same for St. Petersburg as it is for us because we're so close to evacuation routes, and they're talking about mitigations, how you can actually move the residential on the second, third floor, or put generators in the in your residential home. It's about how fast you can return back to your home. So when they look at this, and are there enough shelters available? So that's when if you do approve today any increase, you have to contribute to the shelter or some improvements, off-site improvements for.
I know, and that was one of my arguments months ago, was that we don't have a shelter and we don't have good evacuation routes. And part of the agreement should be both a shelter and helping with that.
Correct, and that will be.
That's not in this development agreement we just approved.
So this development agreement, again, I will repeat, we're not increasing the density. The density was already in place since 2006.
Right.
For this particular, they're not increasing it. So why would they, if they were to change the density on that site, that's when that would trigger that code, that section of the code.
I understand. Thank you.
Thank you. That's a good question. Tough one.
Well, I'm a little disappointed we don't have any military bases being able to come here. We're throwing that one out of the code. That one was a good one. I like that. No Army bases in Oldsmar.
I don't have to ask if anyone wants to, because no one's here, right? I can just keep. All right, is there a motion? Am I there? Sometimes I'm getting lost with all the Is there a motion, or?
If chair's calling for a motion, I will make a motion.
The chair is calling for a motion on agenda item, what is it for?
I recommend the city council authorize staff to transmit the evaluation appraisal report, EAR, of the city's comprehensive plan and Department of Economic Opportunity, DEO, notifying the state city's intent to amend the comprehensive plan by August 2023 for consistent and new statutory requirements as presented.
Thank you.
You can really be a pain, you know that.
That's my job. I found the theater district. There's a slide.
I know.
We have a second.
Second.
We will have a roll call vote, please.
Board Member Cambanas?
Aye.
Board Member Harvey?
Aye.
Board Member Rimbuer?
Aye.
Board Member Roundhouse?
Aye.
Board Member Janakis?
Aye.
Chair Oliver?
Aye.
The motion to recommend that the City Council authorize staff to transmit the evaluation and appraisal report of the city's comprehensive plan to the Department of Economic Opportunity, notifying the state of the city's intent to amend the comprehensive plan by August 2023 for consistency with new statutory requirements, is approved with 6 votes for and 0 against.
I'm not sure protocol on doing this, but we've gone almost 2 hours, and I was thinking maybe someone might need a brief break. Because the next.
We're done, aren't we?
Aren't we done?
Yeah, it was the last time.
Oh, that's right. I have done that 4 times where I keep forgetting we
I don't mean to
moved
butt in.
item 5, so we're done. Okay.
Just have one
We already
thing.
dug through that item at the first time. Okay, good, at the beginning. So, what do I say now?
As a point of order suggestion, as chair, would you like to ask the board if they had any
Anybody
comments
have
or
any
anything they want to
comments
get off
or
their chest before we close?
suggestions? Yeah, that'd be great.
Sometimes we don't have anything.
Or chit chat or
Well, keep it short.
congratulations, or you got
Most
here
most
after.
of us don't have comments. There's one of us who.
I got nothing, I just thought it might be.
I'm working this summer doing workshops for students that are preparing to go to college, and I had some handouts. There were all the Florida colleges lined up. It's a matrix. So anybody that has a junior or senior preparing for college, if you email me, I'll send it to you. It's really very, yeah, you might want one, Devin. That's all I have. Anybody else?
I have, oh, Joe, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't need to go first. It doesn't matter. Did you want to?
No, go ahead.
Okay, I was just gonna say, and this is for city staff. You know, on the agendas, you reference packet page numbers. And like, for example, number 4 says packet page 111. Like, there's no 111 anywhere in the book. It all starts with 1 all over again. And so I was gonna say, if you guys can simplify that for your own purposes and for ours.
That's generated by our electronic system. So it's just the whole, from the very first page to the very last. It just automatically puts that page in there.
It automatically puts it in. Okay, that's interesting. Okay. I thought that was a lot of work for somebody to be counting those things.
No, it automatically adds that.
Okay.
What do you have?
I have an appreciation plaque for John Andrew for 5 years of service. These were presented at the volunteer appreciation dinner, but you were not able to attend that. So I'd just like to give you this with special appreciation. We recognize you for your dedicated service as a member of the planning board since 2017. So thank you.
Comes with a slice of prime rib.
At prime rib.
I heard. I want this full of sangria next time.
Thank you, everyone. It's been a
We need
pleasure
a motion to adjourn.
to volunteer.
Did you have something?
You have something to share?
Oh, you want a picture?
Yes,
Yeah.
you want a picture?
Yeah.
Gonna be a social media star as soon as I get home, probably.
John, go get your picture taken.
I want all of you guys in it.
Yeah, all of you guys.
Yeah.
Tonight.
You did the 5 years, we did.
That's the only way. I did 5 years with all of you, so pretty close. Come on, just roll your chairs close.
There we go. You have to be, well, we
I'll
can
be in.
stand, I don't want to be sitting along the
Whatever you want.
Everyone in.
All right.
John, Andrew in the middle.
And this is something new.
Yeah.
Your back's bad as mine?
Devin, you gotta check
Not
and
only
make sure
my back,
Dale's keeping
but
on
everything
track.
else.
That's the way you know.
Devin, a little closer. We gotta get you all in.
Okay,
Here,
Tatiana,
sit,
Elena,
Devin.
Get back here.
That sounds
Someone
awesome.
sit in a chair over there.
Okay, I can't see Devin. Devin, move over just a little that way.
You still can't see him, he's wearing a mask.
Right, Devin? Take a look
We don't
at
even know what he
everyone's
looks
smile
like.
again. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Yeah, I went and got my handicap sticker, because I got this bone rubbing on bone in here.
I've already had one back surgery and got another one
Anybody else?
coming.
We'll need to
And we gotta,
have a motion to adjourn now, if no one else has anything else to share.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
Oh, this meeting stands adjourned. The time is 7:54, and the next meeting of the planning board is
A mystery.
to be announced.
Yeah.